Today's episode is sponsored in the name of all Outlander fans. A truly worthy name, indeed. Hello and welcome to Film Pro Productivity and Success, the podcast that helps film professionals and other creative people to live a more focused, effective and happy life. My name is Carter Ferguson and this is episode 76, 10 Lessons from How to Win Friends and Influence People, Part 2. Improving yourself is a lot more profitable than trying to improve others. Dale Carnegie, unquote. So I'm back this week with 5 more principles from Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. You don't have to listen to these 2 parts in any particular order, but if you've not heard part 1, I suggest that you go and give it a try. It gives something of a context, at least, to what I'm talking about here. I'm going to come straight in with the 6th principle, which I've chosen from the book, and it's to make the other person feel important. I touched on this last week in some of the examples, but Carnegie points out that some people claim that all of civilization ultimately rests upon the human desire to feel important, that our craving for approval and praise makes us climb the highest mountains, write novels, and found multi-million-dollar companies. It's enough to use simple phrases like thank you and I'm sorry, whilst also giving sincere, honest praise to make people feel this way, though. He warns not to shower people with phony flattery, or they will see right through it. Instead, you should stop thinking about yourself and focus on the good points of the person in front of you. This is perhaps just another way of looking at the golden rule, which I discuss in detail in my Law of Success in 16 Lessons series. Treat others as you would like others to treat you, basically. Carnegie takes this a little further. He says, try leaving a trail of little sparks of gratitude on your daily trips. You will be surprised how they will set small flames of friendship that will be rose beacons on your next visit. You'll soon become someone whom others like and enjoy working with. And best of all, you'll have a positive impact on the lives of those around you. Number 7 on my list is, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. He explains that there is a certain degree of satisfaction in having the courage to admit one's errors. It not only clears the air of guilt and defensiveness, but usually helps solve the problem created by the error. And if, he says, it's too late to admit a mistake quickly, you can still admit it emphatically. The key point in all this, I think, is that your honesty will set you up above the rest and bring the person who has been wronged or fouled by your error back onto your side. The 8th principle from Carnegie's book is kind of linked to this one, but it's when talking of the mistakes of others. He says, when drawing attention to mistakes, do so indirectly. He tells a story of the American steel magnate Charles Schwab to demonstrate this point. He says that he was walking through one of his steel mills one morning when he noticed a group of workers smoking right under a no smoking sign. Instead of confronting them directly about this, he handed them each a cigar and said he would appreciate it if they smoked them outside. Because he'd pointed out their mistake so tactfully instead of berating them, the men probably felt a great deal of admiration and affection for him due to this. Schwab knew that calling attention to mistakes indirectly makes people far more amenable to changing their ways. He really believed that the way that you say something can be enough to win people over. He also suggests that the next time you plan to start a conversation with praise, but then say, but, in inverted commas, but, and continue with a criticism, think about how you could formulate the criticism more softly with an and in place of the but. He gives this example in the book, but I'm sure you can think of others, or maybe I should say, he gives this example in the book, And I'm sure that you could think of many better ones. There's a rewording of it already. This is an example from the book. Instead of saying to a child, your grades are looking good, but your maths is still lagging, try instead saying, your grades are looking good, and if you keep working on your maths, it will catch up soon. I haven't been given many calls to action this season, but although that example maybe isn't brilliant, I do think this is a very good one. Try swapping the word but for the word and when you deliver critical feedback to someone to help you frame it in a positive and uplifting way instead of inferring failure and disapproval. It's definitely worth a bit of thought. Number 9 on my list is pretty simple, but it works. If you want to make a good first impression, smile. If someone we've met just smiles at us, we tend to automatically like them. The smile of a baby, for instance, immediately makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside, as does seeing a dog wagging its tail out of its sheer delight at seeing us. So, if you want to make yourself instantly likeable to someone, show them that you're happy to see them by smiling. When they see how happy you are to meet them, they can't help but be happy to see you too. There's a great article about how smiling can help you in other ways on verywellmind.com, which I'll link to in the show notes. They say that smiles make us attractive to others, as Carnegie's pointing out here, but also that it relieves stress, elevates your mood, that it's contagious, that it boosts your immune system, lowers your blood pressure, helps you stay positive and reflects success, and just that it makes you feel good. If you're a big fan of these Gordon Ramsay shows where he goes and saves restaurants, or the Bar Rescue show as well, I'm watching that one at the moment, you can see in these kind of mini docs that they go into a workplace to save it in effect, and those people that are miserable really turn the customers off. And by the end of these episodes, when they've been trained and it's been pointed out that they look miserable and they're smiling, you can really see a big difference on how the clientele react to them. So I think this is a really, really useful one in today's world. Smiling maybe deserves an episode of its own, in fact, but for now, I'll just leave it here as the penultimate principle on today's list. The final lesson I'm going to offer up today is not a specific principle, but the general message of a chapter. It's chapter 2, and it's called The Big Secret of Dealing with People. Carnegie gets right to the point in the opening paragraph of this chapter by saying there is only one way under high heaven to get anybody to do anything, and that is by making the other person want to do it. Ultimately, you'll have to give someone what they want in order to win friends and influence people. Carnegie gives us a top 8 list of normal adult wants. They are health and the preservation of life, food, sleep, money and all the things that money will buy, life in the hereafter, sexual gratification, the well-being of our children, and, as I've talked about already, a feeling of importance. The chapter dives into the importance of praise. He talks again of Charles Schwab, who was paid $1 million a year by Andrew Carnegie for his ability to deal with people. When asked what Schwab did differently, he emphasized a focus on appreciation and encouragement. He said, "I am hearty in my approval and lavish in my praise." Carnegie followed Schwab's example here and would often praise his employees as well in both public and private events. He believed that appreciation and praise were so important that people often craved it as much as food, but would sometimes go years without ever having their needs met. Part 6 of this list make the other person feel important, and Part 3 from last week's show, give honest and sincere appreciation, are both principles presented in this chapter. The big lesson here is that by giving honest and sincere praise, people will hold onto your words for a lifetime, and that's the best kind of impact to have in any relationship that you've built. The book's first chapter is titled, "If You Want to Gather Honey, Don't Kick Over the Beehive," which encompasses the lesson, "Don't criticise, condemn or complain" from last week's show. I think that the title itself deserves a mention here before I end, as it's a great principle to live by. If you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. In summary, today I have covered make the other person feel important. If you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. When drawing attention to mistakes, do so indirectly. If you want to make a good first impression, smile. And finally, the big secret of dealing with people. Do you sometimes struggle to make friends or argue with others and still don't manage to win them over to your way of thinking? Do you feel that your relationships with your colleagues and clients could be better? If that sounds like you, then Dale Carnegie's self-help classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People, might be worth reading. And it's just 75 cents at the time of recording on Kindle. And the Kindle app itself, remember, is completely free to download on your electronic devices. So if you don't have a Kindle, you can still read this for just 75 cents. So if the principles from it that I've talked about here have appealed to you, and believe me, there are many more, then go and grab yourself a copy. Thanks once again for joining me on Film Pro Productivity and Success and investing in yourself. I'd be very grateful if you would take the time to leave a rating or a review perhaps on whatever app that you listen to your podcasts on. It makes a big difference to the show because it bumps it up in the rankings and it attracts more listeners. I really appreciate your time here, whether you're a long-term follower of the podcast or this is your first time hearing what I have to say. Next week's show is all about pride and arrogance and looks at how those attributes can get in the way of your advancement. Let me end today with some final words from the author of How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. If you're not in the process of becoming the person you want to be, you are automatically engaged in becoming the person you don't want to be. Now take control of your own destiny. Keep on shooting and join me next time on Film Pro Productivity and Success. The music that you can hear right now is Adventures by Himitsu. You can view the show notes for this episode on the official website, only the full transcript on the official website, filmproproductivity.com, and you can follow my personal account on Twitter and Instagram at fight_director, or follow the show on Twitter at FilmProProdPod, or on Facebook at FilmProProductivity. Please continue to support the show by subscribing, spreading the word, and leaving, if you don't mind, an awesome review.